Today, welcome. Here we have Gavin Hammond on today's
Hello.
Glimpse. I very deliciously got to work with Gavin this week on a Lord of the Rings expansion. And the reason why I wanted you to come in and talk to us today is because you did something that impressed me so much as something I typically have to direct people into, and you just did it. Not only did it, but you did it through three different characters in the same session, that you were able to have this very real element of discovery on the lines and then making a decision and doing something about it. So I wanted you to speak to that.
I'm really flattered and honored that you noticed that or that I got that across. Yeah, no, anytime, especially I play a lot of video games. So anytime something sounds really written or they're written in a way that can be really wordy, we have to figure out how to make it sound like a real thing. So I always try to approach a line from a perspective where he's got to be figuring this out for the first time. And I mean, a lot of it has been working with really excellent directors like yourself, like Randy, Chris Brown, Julian Kwasniewski. I've just been blessed to work with so many different people that kind of lead you to make those choices that hopefully eventually it becomes part of your repertoire. You can just kind of do that from the beginning, especially because I get the scripts in advance. So I always like to go through and find out how awful some of the black speech is going to be, or how really tough those weird dwarven towns are, and you kind of find places you can connect to and make extemporaneous sounding.
Is there anything else that you do to make it seem very in the present as opposed to just, oh, I'm telling a story?
I just try to make like whatever the words are to make them sound like I'm getting them off the page, and like they're really just the words of some being, or some creature or whatever, that it just sounds honest and natural.
I know this happens because you get a script that you don't get in advance.
Yeah.
So what's your process for still getting to that same spot?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, because it is such a luxury to get a script in advance. So, as always, thank you for doing that. No, if you show up and you don't have that luxury, make sure that each line is coming from a place that is authentic and is part of a scene. Get, as much information, usually it's volunteered, but as much information about who the characters talking to, how far away they are, so you can make those things at least feel sonically like they're in an honest place. And then just try to make them, if they seem overwritten and kind of silly, either change the words around a little bit, or if the words are really precious to the writer, just try to get them out in a way that feels natural.
In this session that we had, you had to do three character voices that you hadn't done before, but that were related within the same race to characters that you had done before. And somehow you knew exactly where you were in that world.
Thank God for ongoing gigs, right? Yeah, no, we've had a few different kind of dwarves. There were some that had different European sort of a vibe. Some had been kind of Scottish. Some had just been sort of generic, received pronunciation British. So I just kind of get the same sort of like placement in my chest and put a bunch of gravel or something stupid like that. Anything like that where I can kind of like turn it into dwarven. And then I just turn the dialect on or off. And then if it's somebody it's supposed to be related to somebody else, then I can usually get a reference for what I had. And then I can add some texture or some nasality, or just, one of the many things that we can always layer on top of a voice to make it similar but different enough. Maybe a character's older or a little more introspective, so they might be shyer, they might swallow their words more. If they're brash, they might be a little more extroverted. Just adding those different little elements is what'll make it from being I'm doing the same voice to like it's a different character that sounds like a different entity, hopefully. I live in a weird world.
Don't we all?
I hope so.
All right. Well, until we meet you in your weird world again, thank you so much, Gavin. Thank you for
Thank
spending
you,
this
my
time with us.
friends. It was lovely speaking with you.
Always
Thanks.
lovely speaking with you too.
All right.
All right.
Bye.